Hello everyone, it's been a while. Happy New Year, happy 2026. I know I haven't posted a video on here in a very long time, it feels like. I've just been busy. But to be completely honest, I haven't always been busy. I just haven't felt like making videos because I've been exhausted. The winter season is really hard for me to get through, just the cold, dark weather, and I live in a cold and dark place, Pacific Northwest, so it can be really heavy at times to get through. So I'm dealing with it. I feel like I'm doing better this year than I have in previous years living in the Pacific Northwest. So as some of you know from my previous videos, I came from Mexico before I came here, but I'm originally from here, from the Pacific Northwest. I just got used to the year-round sunshine. Anyway, in this video, I want to talk about things that I have learned in the year 2025. So we're just going to go over a few topic points. I want to go over things that I've been up to a little bit, things that I've been dealing with, struggling with, / things that might help or benefit other people. I feel like when we share in our struggles and our victories, it helps. But, to keep a realistic perspective about what we're going through. It's not always peachy. It's not always perfect. The reality is life is a mix of up and down. So let's get into it. One of the things that I learned, I feel like over and over again, was how to let go. And that's been a lifelong lesson, a lifelong struggle for me. How to let go in terms of expectations. What you expect from others and what they expect from you. Sometimes it can be a really heavy load to carry. And letting go of all that relieves so much stress and anxiety on so many levels, especially spiritually. When you realize I only have one person to impress, and that's God, that just makes your day, your life feel so much more focused. And all the other worries about, your boss, your husband, your wife, your kids, whatever. I mean, it's not to say those people aren't important in our life. Obviously, they are very important, but we're here to serve God, and everything that we do for Him will naturally flow down. And so sometimes if we get out of order and we start putting people above God, it can get kind of wonky. And what I mean by that is you can start to become a people pleaser. You can start to expect things that are unrealistic from others, and vice versa. They might start expecting unrealistic things from you if they see that you're trying to please them so much. And it can just become this unhealthy back and forth. So that's one thing. Sorry, I just gotta think for a second. Another thing that I learned in the year 2025 was how to do things differently. And by that I mean how to approach a situation with the opposite perspective. Maybe it kind of made me think of, black and white or left and right or this and that thinking. But there's a lot of gray area in between, you see, and that can apply to everything in life, even spiritual topics. But the other day I was doing something. It was just a mundane thing, a chore or task or activity that I do every day. And I just did it the opposite way. And I felt like, wow, this was amazing. I just discovered like a new way to do something that was totally there the whole time and seemed obvious after I did it. It was just like going left or right, going right instead of left, or going white instead of black, or going up and down, up instead of down. So what I mean by that is kind of like the opposite direction kind of thing. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, maybe you brush your teeth with your right hand, try brushing with your left hand and see how it feels. And that's just a simple thing you can do to make your brain think creatively, think outside the box, and think, maybe there's a more efficient or effective way to do this thing, maybe a less painful thing, maybe even a more fun way to do something, you know what I mean? A more interesting way of doing something. So I feel like my brain just had like this aha moment, epiphany, where it just expanded like like where I went, wow, this was awesome. Why didn't I think of this before? I could have done this way and felt so much better. And that's not to say doing things the old way is always bad. But it's just getting outside your comfort zone, thinking outside the box, you know. That's really fun and encouraging for me. So those are a couple things that I learned. I wanted to talk about mental health / physical health issues a little bit, because I think I mentioned before in some of my videos about postpartum depression, which I've had, which can look like a lot of different things. But it turns out I might actually have ADHD, not anxiety, depression, bipolar, or borderline personality is what they were trying to diagnose me with. Those were all subset, like, symptoms of the broader thing, which is actually ADHD, which another aha moment for me, and I'm not trying to out anybody in my family, but a lot of family members I have do have, a lot of my family members do have ADHD, and a lot of it is just known but not diagnosed officially, but I'm gonna go get diagnosed officially. But how did this come about? Well, okay, so I knew my whole life I've always struggled with quote unquote anxiety. Now, what does that actually mean? That's a blanket statement to say, well, you're just moody, you're sensitive, you're anxious, oh, you don't like loud noises, oh, like you get overwhelmed easily, you're a perfectionist, you know. And there's different character traits of a person's, you know, personality that you could list, that might qualify a person to say, oh, you're anxious, or you have even an anxiety disorder. Now, I've known this about myself, but not until I had kids did my mental health take a nosedive, you know, and the situation just became extremely stressful because I was in the middle of moving back to the US from Mexico. I still struggle with chronic back pain till this day, since about the year 2017. And it's just been a constant battle or fight, I feel like, mentally, you know, and it's gotten better, worse, better, worse, but I feel like I'm at a new level now of understanding myself of, oh my God, if I have ADHD, this just explains my whole life story of feeling misunderstood my whole life. Not only by other people, but by myself. Like, why do I react this way? Why do I feel this way emotionally? Why do I have intrusive thoughts? You know, and all these different symptoms just don't seem to be adding up to, let's say, bipolar 1 or bipolar 2. It's not just mania or depression, you know, it's other things. Or it's not just anxiety, or it's not just a borderline personality disorder. That was another one that they were sure maybe you have that. I don't know. Sorry if you hear coughing in the background and noise. It's my kids. So everybody's like hacking and coughing away. It's just that's going around right now. And I'm a little sick, but not really. So sorry about the noise, but they're doing pretty good so far. I told them just to not make too much noise. But anyways, I feel like, you know, I could do this whole like professional video looking thing, you know, with like a studio, lights, and a microphone and camera and, you know, perfect setup. But this is my reality and I want to be realistic. So I feel like it's just easier to be like this. So, yeah, basically that ADHD. So I've been learning a lot about that. I talked to my therapist about it. I'm not sure how it came about. Was I was talking to her one day and we got on the subject of, oh, Allison, this symptom you're describing, like that's actually a really common ADHD symptom. And she actually is an advocate for women with ADHD, which is great. So this whole time I've been seeing her for like maybe a year or two. She, you know, she's been treating me for my anxiety and depression, whatever. I say quote because we're not really sure. It could be that or not, but it's like a symptom of the ADHD, okay, right? So, and then she goes on to list all these symptoms of ADHD in females because it's less common. One, they thought it was less common, but it's actually less commonly known or studied, which blows my mind. So they've been studying young boys and males for a long time in psychology more than females. It just looks different in females. But the main takeaway is low dopamine, lower executive functioning, and the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder can actually just be in your head. So, for example, you're fidgety. That's a common one. People with ADHD, you're fidgety, you're forgetful, you can't focus, you're distracted, you're bouncing around, you're hyperactive. Well, for a female like myself, you might feel those things, but internally, and you might mask. And this is another thing that blew my mind. Masking, which I've been doing my whole life, which looks like perfectionism, OCD, like being super picky and controlling and uptight with your environment, like organized, like super organized with your time or your things, or just like, oh, it has to be this way, super perfect, Like in school, I was super aware of like the need to succeed, but like I could not fail. Like I felt like I would let everybody down and I had to be perfect. So this is the thing. I didn't know back then I had ADHD. Let's just say for all intents and purposes that I have it, but I don't officially have it yet until I get the diagnosis, but I'm pretty sure I have it because it's passed down genetically. Anyway, let's say for all intents and purposes, I was masking my whole life to cover up ADHD and I didn't even know I had it. I was like, I'm so anxious, I'm so on edge, I'm a perfectionist, like I'm doing all this stuff and I present a certain way. Sensitive, moody, whatever the label is that people want to say, my personality or how I'm behaving, that is a mask for what is actually going on. If I actually don't mask, I'd be like daydreaming in the clouds, distracted, maybe forgetting, who knows? Maybe if I wasn't masking, maybe if I back then wasn't pretending or trying so hard to cover up those symptoms of ADHD to be perfect and, who knows? Like I could have done really bad in school, but turns out I did great in school. I did great in work. I had a pretty normal social life. But again, I do feel like I have had to try really hard at some things. And I know other people that have ADHD that don't mask and they're just, they have to get on medication basically, or otherwise they're like, I can't focus at all. So like I can focus. And anyways, there's a lot of information about ADHD in men and women and how you get diagnosed. And so this is another thing that I learned that was fascinating, which makes sense for me. Undiagnosed ADHD can lead to anxiety and depression because you don't know what's going on. You're just like, oh, I'm struggling with this overwhelm and intrusive thoughts. And now I'm feeling really upset and I don't know what to do. Okay, what is that? Is that anxiety? Or maybe it's ADHD. Maybe you have low dopamine. Maybe that's your... But this is the thing that I really appreciate. And someone said, ADHD people, okay, we're not broken. We're different. Okay, and I like to think that way because look at your strengths. Okay, you might say, yeah, ADHD people, we struggle with focus and following through. Maybe we're forgetful. Maybe we're disorganized, whatever. But we're highly creative usually, we're innovative, we're good at problem solving, we're good at situations that vary. Like I think the word boredom or just being bored is like death to an ADHD person, which I have felt a lot in my life. I'm like, why am I so bored? And I see other people and they don't seem that bored. They're just like content with the ordinary, typical stuff. And then you go, okay, because they're neurotypical and I'm neurodivergent. So anyway, everything starts making sense. I just felt so happy and relieved to know that, oh my God, if I truly am, I get this diagnosis, then I know like my whole life would make so much more sense, And if that's the case, my counselor said she would help me with a treatment plan, whether it's, behavioral modification, psychoeducation, learning tools you can implement, the non-medication stuff. And then there is medication, of course. So there's just so much to learn, so much to do with that. And I'm really excited, really happy about that. On to the next topic. I want to talk about the Catholic Church. So Some of you know I've been going to that for a little over a year now. And I think in some of my previous videos I talked about a little bit about that in regards to what I believe and how Catholicism is different than Protestantism, and how I align more with the values and beliefs of Catholicism. And it's all under the umbrella of Christianity, right? But yeah, so this last Sunday I had my rite of entrance into the church. So basically you pick a godparent or a sponsor from your church, somebody who's an active member in the Catholic Church in the community, and they bless you. They give you the sign of the cross on the forehead, the ears to hear the gospel, the mouth to proclaim the gospel, over the heart. And so it's kind of like a symbolic thing. So it's like, I call it blessing, but it felt like, receiving a blessing. The priest does that on your forehead, right? As a way to show to the community and to the church that you are interested in entering the church and that you've been studying the word. And, I just kind of had flashbacks or compared it to my experience in the 2x2 church of when you make your choice to follow Jesus. And I'm like, well, I've been following Jesus for quite a while now. Let's say since I was 14 or 15. And now I'm 34. Okay. Why don't you find one? There might be one over there. Sorry. My son needs help finding a toy. So, sorry, hold on a second. Okay, there. And yeah, anyway, I was just thinking about the differences with that. It's kind of funny because I feel like I have to start over from zero in a way with my faith journey. So it's like, well, not completely zero. It's like, yeah, I still believe in God, but here's what I don't believe about God or Jesus and the church and the Trinity and the Eucharist and all that stuff. What do you, it's like, okay, I've been Protestant for so long, and now I feel like I'm just like, okay, let's go over to the Catholic Church now. And I know it sounds so weird, right? Casual, but I mean it in a way of, it feels like I've finally found my church home. And before, I just didn't know so much, but I didn't know I would become aware of so much more with the Catholic Church that it's like, now I'm seeing, okay, here's where my faith, my beliefs and values align, right? And where it doesn't align. So all in all, it was a positive experience, a good experience. It feels good to be able to meet other church members and to know that they can pray for you. And anyways, my son's getting a little bit frustrated with his toys. So anyway, I better let you guys go. I'm gonna hop off of here, and this is a pretty random kind of haphazard. Max, please stop. I told you I'm recording. That's rude. Haphazard video. So I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If not, that's okay too. I'm just doing this kind of to, I don't know, vent. It's like a diary, a video blog, but also I feel like God wants me to share my experiences with you all. And thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your comments. I really appreciate them. I just want to say thank you for all the comments. I read them, and I really appreciate the kind words and the support and any helpful information you have or just interesting topics to discuss. I really appreciate that. So that being said, hope you all are doing well, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.